We are joined now by CNN aviation analyst Miles O'Brien. Miles, as we look at that, there have been some questions about the plane itself, about, frankly, the level of the plane and what that looked like. Contact was lost, according to Flight Tracker, at 625 feet. What do you make of not only the information we have, but how that fits with what we're seeing in that video?
Well, Erica, if you look toward the beginning of that video, maybe we can get a freeze or slow it down a little bit. What really strikes a pilot as you look at that is there's no indication or evidence that the flaps were deployed at that time. The flaps are the movable aerodynamic structures at the trailing edge of the wing, and the slats are similar structures at the leading edge of the wing. They increase the lift of the wing crucially during takeoff when speeds are lower. In addition to that, okay, so it's hard to see there, but there's no indication that the flaps are deployed there. And interestingly, the landing gear is still down. So you have a scenario on a hot day, a fully loaded aircraft for a 9-hour flight to London Gatwick. And on a hot day, you have less lift in the air because the air molecules are less dense. You have evidently the flaps not deployed and the landing gear down, which increases the drag. So there were evidently a lot of problems which made it difficult for this aircraft to take flight and hold altitude, quite obviously. Now, why would this happen? The 787 has, been in service now for about a decade or so. It's never had a crash that involved fatalities, and it is a highly automated aircraft that involves all kinds of checks and counter checks and redundancies to make sure it's in the proper configuration before takeoff. So very early to say why this is in this evident position of no flaps, but that would certainly explain why the aircraft could not maintain hold altitude or, for that matter, climb.
When you mentioned, as you point out there, the landing gear that's still down, how quickly is the landing gear typically up after takeoff?
The normal sequence would be once you have a positive rate of ascent, the pilot flying will call gear up. The pilot monitoring will put the landing gear up. The flaps remain down, and as speed gradually increases, more lift over the wings, they slowly stow those flaps. Mm-hmm. And eventually, as it gets to a cruise flight, you sort of what they call clean up the wing, stow the flaps and slats so that the aircraft can fly at cruise speed. That's the normal sequence of events. What seems odd here is that the flaps were stowed and the gear was still down. Why did that happen? That's what pilots are looking at right now.
And so also, walking us through, so the fact that all this happened in under a minute, this Mayday call is sent out to air traffic control, and then from what we've been told, there is no further communication. We all hear about a Mayday call. We've seen TV, we've seen the movies, but in reality, what does that mean when a pilot says this is a Mayday call as opposed to calling into air traffic control with some other sort of issue? I have an issue with the landing gear, for example. What does that change in terms of the sequence of events when it's an actual Mayday call?
Well, when you declare an emergency, which is a Mayday, instantly all airspace around you is yours. You can do whatever you want. It is incumbent upon air traffic control to clear air traffic out of the area, to do whatever maneuvers might be necessary to save the aircraft and the souls on board. So Mayday is a very simple way to obtain complete priority over the skies and let air traffic control know there's a problem. Was there time for them to, explain the details? Clearly not. But Mayday summed up that they were dealing with a problem that seemed to be beyond them at that time.
Yeah. We've seen these images as well of the tail section, a portion of the tail section of the plane in this building, in the area where the plane crashed. We're told that the building itself is what's being referred to as a doctor's hostel, a mess, if you will, where a number of medical students were likely having lunch at the time, because this was 1:39 local time that the plane went down. The fact that that portion of the plane, though, does appear to be accessible, and that is where we would find the black boxes, that could offer some answers more quickly, perhaps, than in a number of situations.
Yeah, the 787 is a highly advanced aircraft. There are multiple streams of data feeding into the flight data recorder or black box. Presumably, the cockpit voice recorder also captured conversations among the crew during this very short flight. So that is a good sign that there will be some real evidence for investigators to look at as they try to determine what happened. Once, really crucially here will be conversations between the crew as they configured that aircraft for departure. The system is designed to cross-check the actual configuration of the plane with what the crew has commanded based on the weather and the amount of fuel and everything else. And if there's a discrepancy, there should be oral warnings and other indications to the crew that the plane is not configured the way it was supposed to be. So there's all kinds of ways this aircraft is designed to tell a crew that this airplane is not ready for takeoff. So it'll be very interesting to listen to that cockpit voice recorder as well as look at the data to see what went on.
Yeah, absolutely. Miles, appreciate your expertise as always. I know